Morning, friends. Hope you all are having a fantastic day. Welcome to or welcome back to Willow Creek Homestead. My name is Kenzie if you are new around here. And today we have a ton of things that we are going to be canning together that I have never personally tried to do. So let your friend experiment for you. This is going to be a full day of just experimenting and trying new things. We're going to use some Thanksgiving leftovers to create meals in a jar, and it should be super, super fun. So I am down here in the pantry, and I came down last night and got a bunch of stuff, but I still needed stuff this morning. So I am just grabbing a bunch of broth. So we have some chicken broth and pork broth, and basically everything that we are making today requires broth. So we need quite a little bit of it. So maybe we'll start with that many, and then if we need more, we'll come back and get it. And then I also gotta grab some onions. And if you watched my seed haul video, you guys know that we have onions from last year's garden that we harvested. And I went ahead and pulled this out up here so that I could show you. Like, these are the Patterson onions, and look at that. Beautiful still, like really, really dry, and they've lasted me for forever. So a lot of the things that we are making today as well require a bunch of onions. So let's go ahead and pull out maybe like 2 or 3 big ones. All right, so all of this is locked and loaded. Let's go get to canning. All right, so let me give you guys a rundown really quickly of everything that we are going to be canning today. So I did go ahead and make a list. Last night, I went ahead and got a bunch of stuff done for us so that we could just kind of hit the ground running today. So we are going to be making beef stroganoff using the leftover roast sliced meat from Thanksgiving. I asked you guys a while back if beef stroganoff was good, and a lot of you said it was. So I was like, we definitely got to give that a try together, and I'll let you know what I think of it. So that is on the list. We are also going to be canning a turkey and gravy meal in a jar. I've never even heard of this, but it sounded absolutely fantastic. And then my family and I, we love ham and beans, but I've never canned it together. Usually I just slice up the ham and grab a jar of beans from downstairs. But I was like, having it already made in a jar would be incredible. So we're going to do ham and beans as well. And then with the leftover mushrooms that I picked up yesterday for the beef stroganoff, we are going to try canning just plain mushrooms together. And then I also have a bunch of bell peppers that I cut up to can peppers with. I've never canned just plain peppers, so should be fun. I'm really excited to do all of this stuff with you and just experiment and see if we can add any new recipes to our pantry rotation list. So we have our work cut out for us today, and let's get going on it. Okay, friends. So the first recipe that we are going to get started on is the ham and beans recipe. And for this, I am going to do pretty chunky chunks of onion. You could cut them down or leave them a little bit bigger, however you want to do it. But it's really simple. It's just the ham, our beans, which I soaked last night, and then chunks of onion and some pork stock. If you don't have pork stock, you could use chicken broth, or you could even just fill the jars up with water and add a little bit of pork seasoning if you would like to. But that is basically it. And then we have homemade ham and beans ready to go. And this is one of my family and I's absolute favorite things to make, just because it's so incredibly quick and easy. So whenever I saw people making this in the jar, I'm like, how have I never thought to do that? You know what I mean? So I'm actually very, very excited to see how these turn out. So I'm just going to get a bunch of onions chopped really quickly. And then in my stock pot here, I'm just going to go ahead and throw in just a smidge bit of olive oil. And then we will go ahead and get all of our onions in there. And then this is just some ham that I saved from Thanksgiving. I have more ham in there too. And I was kind of just like, I'll determine how much I need today, but I do think I'm going to need the other pack. So we'll get the rest of it cut up. But basically all I do whenever we have leftovers from Thanksgiving is I either just dice it and freeze it in these freezer bags, or I leave it in half moon shape so that I can make it for dinners. And Thanksgiving is a wonderful holiday to use your leftovers to make things in the future, because usually you're left with a lot of meats and things that freeze really, really well. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get this in here as well. So here's just my other package of ham, and we're gonna do the same thing, just go ahead and get this diced up. And you do not have to sear your ham or your onions or anything. You could just put all of these ingredients in a jar with your dried beans and fill the top up with broth. But I really, really like some color on my ham and onions for our ham and beans. So that is just kind of what I'm trying to recreate in the jar. But if you're on a time crunch or you don't want to mess with all of the extra steps, you don't have to do it that way. And then while the ham and onions are getting some good color on them, let's go ahead and start with the beef stroganoff. Now I'm gonna try this 2 different ways. I pulled out a roast because that is what the original recipe calls for, is to use a roast meat. But like I said, we had roast for Thanksgiving. We always do like a beef, ham, and turkey. And this is just diced down like the ham is. So I'm gonna try 2 different variations with it. My only concern with this is that it's going to cook so far down that you're not going to be really left with like beef chunks, but I feel like it will give it really good flavoring and maybe be comparable to like beef and noodles more, just with the mushrooms, and then you could make like a thinner sauce to go with it. So this is totally an experiment. If you have some leftover roast from Thanksgiving and you want to turn it into beef stroganoff, I will let you know how it goes. But I am going to go ahead and bring everything up to temperature for both of these because we need to put some some beef bouillon in with it. So I'm going to get it over the stove and let everything come up to temperature. Usually I raw pack my ready-made meals in a jar, but if they call for like bouillon or if I don't have beef stock, etc., I do feel like the water needs to warm up to kind of let all the flavoring dissolve. So that's just how we're going to do it. And beef stroganoff is not something that I make very often around here. I think I've only made it like 2 or 3 times, and it's not because we don't like it or anything like that. It's just I don't think of it very often. So I'm hoping that by having it ready to go in a jar, it will kind of entice us to do that recipe more often. And the beef stroganoff is not done. Once it is canned, you will need to add some sort of like thickener to the base to make that like very distinct stroganoff gravy-ish, I guess you could say. I had seen a couple recipes that were calling for clear gel and several different things, but I'm like, no, I'll just thicken it up after it's made. But you can add clear gel to this if you would like the base to be a little bit thicker right from the beginning. I'm just not going to do that. I don't know why. I just feel like that's a little bit weird to add with meats, but if you would like it to be thicker in your jar whenever you go to serve it, that is an option. And this is a chuck roast, you guys. You could use whatever type of roast you wanted. My mother and father-in-law, they always buy a half a cow every single year, and we live right across the road from them. So we get all kinds of roast and steak and hamburger and all kinds of, just a variety of different cuts and chops. So depending on what I have, that is typically what I use. This is something that called for a roast, but I mean, even if you had, like a different type of sliced beef even, you could probably throw it in here and make it work. Okay, and then the next thing that goes into our beef stroganoff is just all of these onions. I went ahead and got another one cut up. And then I went to the Dutchman store yesterday and they had a really good deal on mushrooms. So I was able to get 2 packs of Baby Bell and then just 2 packs of the standard white mushrooms. It does not matter like what type of mushroom you use. Sorry, my husband walked in here and needed my help with something. What I was trying to say is just make sure you wash off the under part of your mushroom really, really well because these tend to be very, very dirty. So make sure you are really, really going the extra mile to get all of that off. So I think I'm going to split these up between the chopped roast and the regular roast. So maybe we'll just do like half of the container because I know I'm going to get more of this batch than I will this batch. So there's that. And then I also have an entire jar of dehydrated onions that was in my Lazy Susan that I didn't know I had. So just to kind of get a bunch more of these used up from last year, I am going to go ahead and throw in about half of the jar of that and we'll use the rest for the other one. And then the next thing that we need to do is just add some beef bouillon. And if I had beef stock, I would use that, but I don't have any. So I'm just doing, I don't know, maybe a good spoonful in here to start with. Maybe just a little bit more than that actually, because this pot is quite large. Now remember, the roast will create its own beef stock, but this is just more for flavoring. And remember, the goal is not to cook any of this. I'm just getting the temperature brought up so that all of that bouillon can really work into everything. So if it's still a little bit raw on the meat and everything, that's totally fine. It'll cook throughout the pressure canning process. So I'm just gonna let this sit over here and do its thing, and let's get some ham and beans filled up. The really nice thing about all of these recipes, friends, is that they all cook for the exact same amount of time. Even if we have leftover beans for the ham and beans, that processes at the same time as everything else with all of the meat and things in it. So the only thing that's different is the mushrooms and the peppers, but everything else should be really easy to just throw in the canner all at once. I did finally invest in one of these stainless steel funnels. I don't mind the plastic ones if that's all you have access to. That's all I had access to as well, but these are dishwasher safe and really, really nice. So super happy to have another one to use. So that way I don't have to melt my other ones whenever I try and clean them. Okay, let me grab a spoon. So I think we're just gonna do a couple scoops of beans and then do the ham and onions on top. And then, you know what I forgot, friends? We also need our pork stock. And I am so incredibly excited to try these. These are soaked and pre-rinsed. So literally all we have to do is just scoop them out and get some jars filled up. I love doing all of the prep the night before. It just saves you so much time. So I did spend probably, I don't know, 4 to 5-ish hours last night just chopping, cutting, making sure everything was ready to go, pulling things out of the freezer, etc., etc. And these are navy beans. Usually I would use Great Northern beans, but Dutchman store did not have any. So you just got to use what you got. And then let's get a big scoop of our ham and onions here. And then I think I'm going to scoop just a little bit more beans on top of that. And you do kind of want to leave the beans a little bit lower than your 1-inch mark. Now these are pre-soaked, so they won't really expand a whole lot throughout the cooking process. But I would say more space is better if you can leave more space as opposed to less. But there's one. And then we just need to get some broth in here as well. I don't always have pork stock on hand, so that worked out really good that I just so happened to have this to make these with. And then I'll go ahead and just debubble so that that portion is done for each of these. Look at that, you guys. Ah, that is so incredibly exciting. I love it. I bet these are going to be really good. Like, I just have a hunch that these are going to be absolutely delicious. Sorry if I seem a little off this morning so far. I am tired. My husband and I stayed up late watching the Packers game. I'm not into football. My husband loves football. And I haven't had coffee yet. And you guys know how I get without my coffee. I'm a little bit sluggish and I'm just like not fully awake yet. But yeah, Packers didn't win. So my husband was pretty bummed. But we did stay up quite late watching the game. So I'm trying to wake up and get motivated and, you know, all of those things. But my husband is on his way back with my coffee. So that should help out tremendously. The onions that we started together in our seed haul video have started to sprout along with my thyme, which is super, super exciting. The rosemary has still not come up yet, which is normal. That usually takes a little while. And somebody told me that rosemary needed to be cold stratified. I did not know that to be the case. But it seems like rosemary is one of those things where a lot of people have a lot of issues with getting it to germinate. So not this year because I didn't know that and I couldn't try it, but maybe next year I will try cold stratifying it and see if that helps with the germination any. What I love about this funnel already right off the bat is it's much wider. Some of those plastic funnels are really like thin at the top, especially if I'm doing like the Christmas cookies and brownies in a jar. It's like I can hardly even get the cup of flour without spilling it all over the place. So I do like that these are much wider than those ones. A lot of people don't know that you can re-can your canned items. I wouldn't say that it would work for all of them, but especially beans. Beans are something that I recan all the time into several different things like chilies and, you know, roasts or, you know, whatever you're making with beans in it. So I almost just went ahead and recanned a couple jars that I had downstairs, but they had a really good price on a big bag of navy beans at Dutchman. So that's why I bought it. But if you don't have dry beans or you don't want to go get them and you have beans like in your pantry, you can definitely recan them and do it that way too. I got my coffee, friends. I'm starting to feel a little bit more alive. Okay, so this is just the beef stroganoff. Like I said, I didn't cook it for a whole lot of time or anything, but The smell on this is already incredible. So I am so excited to try this. I've never canned anything with mushrooms before. I'm not a huge fan of tin canned mushrooms. I just don't like the sliminess. So I'm really hoping that the plain mushrooms and the mushrooms in this don't resemble that at all. You guys let me know. Have you ever tried canning mushrooms? Have you ever canned anything with mushrooms in it? I don't know. We just don't use mushrooms a whole lot around here because, like I said, we're not a big fan of the tin can mushrooms. But if we can these and they are nothing like that, we may have to add mushrooms into our canning rotations because that would be incredibly fun and something that would be just good to have on hand. And if you didn't like the mushrooms, you could absolutely 100% leave them out. That is not a requirement at all. You could really cater this recipe however you would like to. Ooh, one jar is done. That looks incredible. Like I said, it smells really, really good. So I'm really excited for these. My husband walked in the door and he was like, our house smells amazing already. I'm like, yeah, I know. Your wife's kind of awesome. That is one thing I will say, friends, is we do eat good around here. Speaking of eating, I haven't really been like on a weight loss journey per se, just kind of more mindful of what I've been trying to eat. I weighed 130 pounds before I had my daughter. And then after I had my daughter, I weighed 150 pounds. And I got started on a medication probably like a year and a half ago that just made me put on weight like none other. Like I'll insert a picture of what I used to look like. And not that I think that I look bad or anything. I've just been kind of struggling with body image and things like that because I'm not used to having the extra weight on me. But I have lost 9 pounds over the past 2 weeks. So I am very, very proud of myself. And hopefully I can keep up the momentum. I recently stopped taking that medication entirely because I could just tell like it was not helping me at all. It was actually just making everything 100 times worse. So really, really proud of myself. And hopefully I can get back down to my goal weight. So if you are on a health and wellness journey or trying to lose weight or whatever the case may be, I just want you to know that I'm proud of you because it's not easy. Like I said, I did go ahead and prep up some just regular white mushrooms as well. There's not a whole lot of mushrooms left in the bottom of this pot, but there is still like the meat and onions. So I'll just go ahead and throw in some of the extra white ones we have as well, just so that everything gets a very even distribution of the other ingredients besides the roast. Oh shoot, friends, you know what I was just thinking? This said to add Worcestershire sauce, and I did not do that. But that's okay. We can add it whenever we go to make it out of the jar, not a biggie. That is the nice thing about canning like the ready-made meals in a jar is if you forget something, don't forget that you can just add it later. Like it's not a big deal. If you forget something during the jarring process or making the recipe process, as long as it doesn't inhibit the safety of your canning, you can just add it later. These look so good, you guys. I am so excited to try these. I have a feeling that these are going to be something that we make again in the future because they look incredible, smells incredible. Very, very excited. And then I did just go ahead and can 2 quarts of the extra navy beans that we had that we didn't use for our ham and beans. So let's go ahead and get some lids and rings on all of this stuff. And then I'm going to take a moment and just kind of reset my kitchen, put some things away, and then we're going to get started on that turkey gravy. So first, I'm just going ahead and getting all of my rims wiped down really good, especially anything that has meat in it. It's going to be more prone to like fatty bits and things on top of your rings. So just make sure that you are getting all of that wiped down really good so that you have really, really good seals on your canned products. I always get the question, do you reuse your lids? Because you guys can see writing on the top of these, and yes, I do. I've said that many times. I only reuse them one time though. I put a little dot on the top of my lids so that I can tell that they've already been used one time. And especially if they go in here, I know that they've already been used one time. I am not promoting that you do that. I am not saying that it's recommended. I'm just telling you that that is what I do. So if you would like to try and reuse your lids, feel free. If you're not comfortable, don't do it. Then we're just getting our rings on fingertip tight. Remember, don't crank them too much because it can cause your lids to buckle, and that is no good. I kind of like canning in the wintertime, you guys. I'm not going to lie. It's like way more lax and chill. I've just had so much stuff going on this summer that I haven't really had a chance to do all of my canning. So like I've told you guys, it's hot and pushed back to the winter, and it's just so much more chill in the wintertime. You know, I don't feel like I'm rushing things or like trying to meet deadlines whenever things come in. Like I like canning in the wintertime. I wish all of my canning could take place in the wintertime because it is just very chill and relaxing. All right, friends. So the next thing that we are going to get started on is the turkey gravy. Let me grab my funnel here. Just got that cleaned. And I've never seen a recipe like this, but basically we are taking leftover turkey from Thanksgiving and we are putting it in with potatoes, carrots, celery, and onion. And then whenever you go to make it, you create a gravy like in the pot or in your pan or whatever, and then you serve it over noodles. And I was like, that sounds incredible. Usually I make like a turkey and noodles, or I'll just can turkey plain. I've never done it with potatoes, carrots, and celery before. So I was like, that would be really, really good. You could also even turn this maybe like into a pot pie filling if you wanted to. Turkey is very comparable to canning chicken. Canned chicken is one of our favorite meats to preserve and have on the pantry shelf just ready to go. We use it in a ton of different things, including barbecue chicken pizza. That's a really, really good way to use it. So now I'm just going to add in some carrots, and I'm just going to do this jar by jar. So like I was saying, chicken is one of our favorite things, and turkey is very, very comparable to the chicken. It holds its texture very well. And anytime that we have leftovers, I'm always looking for like recipes and things to throw it into. I really like being able to repurpose things and make them into new things. So that is kind of something that I had to really work on whenever I started my food preservation journey, is like, okay, something's about to go bad, or I have way too much of this as like a leftover. How can I stretch this? How can I make it into a new product? How can I preserve it so that it can stay on my pantry shelf? So if you start switching your mind from that, these leftovers turn from like borderline an inconvenience and a stress, and then it's just food security. You know what I mean? So I had to work on that switch myself, but so far, I have just found a lot of ways to reuse things, repurpose them, make them into new stuff. And it's always exciting now because you get to turn one thing into like several different products, which I think is really cool. And then the last thing that I am doing is just adding in some chicken broth. Ooh, you guys, that looks beautiful. Look at how stunning. I don't normally add potatoes into like my soups and things unless it's like a potato soup. So that is awesome. Great way to get them used up. And it just gives like a really nice like look to the jar. And then we are just going to do the exact same thing for all of the rest of them. I'm hoping to at least get 3 to 4 jars. We'll see. And then I do have that shredded beef stroganoff to do as well, but it's the same thing as the regular roast chunked meat. I'm just going to make them in the jar. And then let me know if you guys would like a kind of like updated video on trying some of these recipes and letting you know how they go. I have been so focused on just like preserving lately that I've kind of forgotten to do like some cooking videos as well. So maybe we'll do like a week of using only pantry meals or something, and I'll give you updates on all of this and how we like it. Oh shoot, friends. I meant to be adding onions to these. Darn it. That's okay. I think I can still get some in the tops of these. I just didn't want to have to run all the way back downstairs to get more onions. So when I found those dehydrated onions, I was like, that will work perfectly. All right, so I went ahead and got my pressure canner filled up with some water. Like I said, everything that we just made is processing for the same amount of time. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this one loaded up. And then I am gonna pull out a second one for the ones that don't fit in here. And I still can't get over how beautiful this turkey gravy jar is. Ah, so pretty. And then here is some beef stroganoff. And that's it for this one. My pressure canners fit 7 quarts. And then here is my second one ready to go. Now I will have 1 quart left through all of this, and it's not really a good idea to run just 1 quart through your pressure canner. You really need to try and do like full loads. So for the rest of the jars, I'll just do water because I want to start getting our water supply up anyway. It's just good to have on hand. So for the leftover jar, we'll just do another batch of just regular water in some quart jars. And isn't that just a beautiful sight to see? I love having 2 of these. So the next thing that we are going to work on while all of that stuff is processing is our mushrooms and our peppers. Now, I've never canned either of these. Like I said, the peppers I am a little bit skeptical about because I don't want them to be super mushy, but I thought if they didn't come out mushy, because this is going to be a smaller batch, I'm just using some leftover peppers that I had. Like usually whenever we use big chunks of peppers like this, it's for fajitas. So if I can drain these out and maybe put them in like a roasting pan or something with my fajita meat and my onions and they turn out okay, I definitely will probably be doing this again. Now, my family and I, we're just big fans of getting some really good color on our onions. Usually I saute them for every single thing that we use them with. So I don't really feel like canned onions would be a good fit for us, but canned peppers might be. And it's very, very easy to can peppers. It's literally just chopping your peppers however you would like and putting them in your jar and then filling it to the 1 inch of headspace mark. I believe the processing time is, let me see, 35 minutes. I had to write everything down because I was like, I've never processed these before. So basically we're just going to pack them into our jar like so. Then I think the mushroom processing time is 45 minutes. So I might just let these all run together as well and just see what happens. Like I said, today is a day full of experiments. If we don't like them roasted in like fajita meat, there are plenty of other ways that we could use these. I can dice them up later and throw them into a variety of different things. So it's not really a waste either way. My only fear is that they might be a little bit mushy if I let them process the same amount of time with the mushrooms, but I don't know. So that I don't have to do multiple different batches of things, I might just be willing to try. I'm just going to see if I can try and pack these jars in a little bit tighter and maybe just use the rest of these because I don't really have anything that I need to use these peppers for. And if we're already doing a couple jars, might as well just stuff them in there. All right, that worked out really good actually. And then there are extras in the jar. So then we are going to start doing the same thing with the mushrooms. However, I want to do a 1/2 pint size. Now online, they did give me the 1/2 pint processing time, which is the same for pints. I think it's 40 to 45 minutes. I'll leave it down below. Usually whenever you are canning, they don't give you 1/2 pint sizes for like the times and things, especially for the pressure canner. But the National Center for Home Food Preservation must have just known that, you know, canning mushrooms in 1/2 pints is going to be a little bit more realistic. So we are going to try at least 1/2 pint. And I think that this will be a better portion for like pizza or something like that. And then if I want to do stroganoff, like from scratch the same day, then maybe like a pint would be a better size. So I'm going to do it both ways and kind of see what we like best. And you can flavor these as well with like different stocks. Like you could put beef broth in this instead of water. I think I'm just going to do the water, but you can flavor them however. You can add some salt. You can do whatever you'd like. But I think just for the first time of trying it, I'm just going to leave them plain. And you'll learn as you go what you like and what you don't like in terms of canning and different ingredients. I do feel like that takes a little bit of just experimenting and trying things. And it's always better to do like smaller batches of things as opposed to like a really big batch right off the bat. So that if you don't like it, then, you know, you may find ways to use like a couple jars as opposed to like 20, but it just comes with time. Experimenting and making new things, like that is just part of canning and preserving food. And eventually you land on the things that you really, really like, and then you can just focus on preserving those for your family. All right, and then these are done and ready. Okay, first load came out of the canner. I got all of that over there, and now I'm just loading in our mushrooms and peppers. And then, like I said, peppers are 35 minutes, mushrooms are 45 minutes. So I am gonna go ahead and just run everything for 45 minutes, and then I'll meet you back whenever it's done. All right, friends, last batch coming out. Look at how much these peppers shrunk. That looks pathetic a little bit, but that's okay. Here are our mushrooms. Oh my goodness, you guys, those shrunk so bad. Maybe I'll shake them all up in the jar and they'll distribute a little bit better than that. All right, you guys, that feels really good. I have just a couple more jars over there. There's one beef stroganoff, one bean, and then I had some leftover turkey and celery that I just threw into a jar with some chicken broth, and we can add to that later. But this is incredible, makes me so happy. Like I said, all of this is just an experiment and we will see how we like it. So look out for some future recipe videos that will come out soon. We'll do some cooking with all of this stuff and see what the taste is like. Really, really thrilled and happy with how everything turned out. Everything looks really good, and I didn't have any siphoning on any of my jars, so that's always a plus. But that is going to wrap up today's video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have tried any of these recipes, let me know down below. Let me know how you prepare them, how you like them. I always love hearing that stuff from you guys. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week, and as always, I will see you in next week's video. Bye, friends.